Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about the 5 books that has helped our company grow in about 2 years from making no money to making over $1 million this year. And so the 5 books that helped us grow to a 7-figure agency in a very short period of time. I think you'll like this video and you'll like my guest today. See you in a second. All right, well, I have Brian McLaughlin with us today. Brian is coming on as a product, we used to call them project managers, a product manager at Build Online, and really excited to have him. And one of the reasons I brought him on is because he's new to our company, so I kind of wanted to educate him a little bit in real time about some of our values and ideas. But also, he's like a voracious reader. And we hire readers. Everybody at Build Online is a reader. And so I thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about these 5 books together that have helped us grow into a 7-figure agency. It's hard to believe, in about 2 years. So Brian, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself there.
Yeah, my name is Brian McLaughlin. I was a pastor for the last, almost 20 years right out of college, and I'm 41, have 3 kids, a daughter about to graduate high school, a wife who's a piano teacher, kids all musical, and just excited about this transition in my life. I've been involved in software and tech for probably the last 10 years. I tried to write my own app about 10 years ago and went through the difficult process of all the iterations of seeing if I could do it myself. And then finally finding a company in Austin, Texas that, let's just say, it was not the ideal relationship. And I wish Build Online would have been around back then. That would have been a lot better experience. So learned a lot through that process. And then I've been involved in cryptocurrencies over the last 4.5 years as well, and done okay with it. And just excited to really get into something that has been a hobby of mine for many years. But now just really looking forward to this next step and working with you, Ryan, and with your great team that you guys have assembled over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's unique about us is that we have a lot of people on our team that have been burned through their own software experiences in the past. And I think it helps us empathize with our clients because we've been in their shoes. I've been in their shoes. You've been in their shoes, where we hired an agency to do work for us and lost a lot of money and got very poor communication and very poor results back from it. And I love finding people to work for us that have different kind of unique backgrounds. And it's always worked out for us. You know, we kind of hire from odd places. And so we're excited to have you. We've been working with Brian for months and just getting him ready for this role. And he's going to do an amazing job. So let's get into these books. So a company's been around for like 4 years. I started the company. It's been around for about 4 years. But it sort of died 2 years in. Like, I just didn't know what I was doing. And about 2 years ago, not even 2 years in, maybe a year in, it basically, except legally, I basically shut the company down. So Build Online has really only existed for 2 years. We have grown incredibly in the last 2 years, from basically starting with nothing, starting from scratch, to we've just been, it's been crazy. And there were certain books along the way that really kind of helped guide that growth. And I thought, you know, we talked to a lot of software guys, we talked to entrepreneurs on here, business owners. You might be helped a lot by some of these books. So I wanted to go through them. The first book, and I know that I've had you read this one, Brian, is Rework by Jason Fried and David Heinemeier Hansen. Did you read that one?
Oh yeah. it was very, very much of just a paradigm shift for me, and probably one phrase could sum up his book, that their book, and that's work smarter, not necessarily work harder.
Yeah.
And just really, even from chapter one, it just got me because he tackled a lot of the common myths that you hear in the whole work world today, in the business world. So yeah, that was an incredible book to read, and just really got me excited about working for a company that had that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, it really is. That book, I remember when I first saw the book Rework for the first time. Like I literally remember the moment I first saw that book. And I was in Boston, and there's a huge Walgreens there in downtown Boston, right across from where the Boston Massacre took place. But it used to be a Borders bookstore. And I was in that Borders bookstore looking at all the tech books. And for some reason, I think it was in the wrong spot. I saw that book and I opened it up and I started reading it and looking at the picture. And I was like, it was just like, it was like in Matrix where he takes the red pill. You know,
Yes.
it was so mind blowing for me. And I've probably read that book Rework. Oh, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say I've read it a dozen times. I've got the audiobook. I ran a marathon. I probably listened to it 4 times while I was training for that marathon.
Oh, wow.
And I agree with, I can't think of anything in that book that we don't agree with. And it really is sort of the foundation for our business and the way that we do things. You know, so much of what we do and how we hire people and stuff comes from this book Rework. So my key takeaway is that you can build a business your way and ignore what the suits are doing. That's sort of what I've kind of taken away from that book. Just ignore all of the crazy hype in Silicon Valley and just make common sense decisions and have a profitable business. And it's such a good book. If you haven't read it yet, it's about 15 years old. Still holds up absolutely today. Go read it. And anything else they've written is amazing as well. So that's the first book. Second book that has really helped us as a company is another book I know that you've read, and that is the book Scrum by Jeff Sutherland. The Scrum, the art of doing twice the work in half the time. And this is a book about product management, right? It's a book about organizing your teams. And the guy, it's basically a sales pitch for the Scrum project management framework. But it's really an interesting book. It's lots of stories and way more interesting than you'd think it would be given the title.
The case study there with Toyota was fascinating. There at the very beginning of the book, and really just the idea of continuous improvement. I just love that philosophy. That's something that I've carried with me in ministry world for the last 20 years, and it's something that I really resonated with. And he just really challenged the traditional waterfall approach to project management, where you're not really doing any MVPs right away, which is crazy. You would think you'd want to get an MVP done, a minimum viable product, to then be able to get some experience on what's worked and what's not. So anyway, that book was really fascinating to me, just with that whole philosophy of continuous improvement and really structuring your work teams in a unique way with these 2-week sprint approaches.
Yeah. So I've got a love-hate relationship with Scrum, the product management methodology. I'm sort of a Kanban guy, and I've been trying to push us towards Kanban. So we sort of have one foot in both those worlds as far as how we do project management at Build Online. But the things that I took away from that book were not necessarily about Scrum. So if you're not a Scrum guy, I still think you should read that book. I think if you have any kind of software, anything to do with software at all, if you're dreaming about software, you should read the book. The biggest takeaway from the book is that the best way to build great products is by empowering great teams. And the thing that I got out of this Scrum book that really sort of was a mindset shift for me was like, stop trying to hire like superstars. It's way easier to build great teams and let your teams continuously improve than trying to find a bunch of like absolute rock stars. Because those rock stars, let's be honest, they're working at Google, they're working at Facebook, they're working at Microsoft, getting paid far more than we'd ever be able to pay them. But another book, this is such a weird book, it's not on the list, but have you ever read Moneyball?
No.
Have you seen the movie?
I've heard of the movie, but I don't know if I've seen it either.
Okay. Moneyball is a book about baseball, and I think Michael Lewis is the author, but it's a book about baseball and the Oakland Athletics in the early 2000s and the approach that they took to building their team. And it was like, basically, they had no money, they couldn't afford anybody, and they were like, okay, how do you win baseball games? You get on base. So they went and found all of the scrubs that they could find for the cheapest prices possible that could get on base. That was it. Like their first baseman had never played first base before, but he could get on base, Wow. And they ended up like having, I think, the longest winning streak in, at least to that point, in Major League Baseball history. But the big takeaway from that is the same as this. It's far easier to build great teams than it is to hire superstars. And so that's what
that's cool.
It's good takeaway there. All right.
Yeah,
so we talked about that. I got 2 books from this author on this list. Mike Michalowicz. I think Mike Michalowicz has written 6 books, and all 6 of them could be on this list. But the first one is The Pumpkin Plan. And I don't know, have you had a chance to read this one?
I have not.
Okay.
That definitely is one I want to read.
So let me kind of give you an idea of a pumpkin plan. The idea here is he says that businesses, entrepreneurs could learn one of the most valuable lessons from pumpkin farmers. Okay. Excuse me here. I've got a terrible sinus infection today.
It's that time of year.
Yeah. So pumpkin farmers. And the idea is like pumpkin farmers that are trying to win competitions, they focus on their best pumpkin and they put all of their effort in their best pumpkin to try to grow, this giant pumpkin. And so the idea of the pumpkin plan, the key takeaway of that book for us is that you need to focus on your entire business around your best clients. You need to identify who you're the best fit for, what you can help, and not let like the little pumpkins steal the nutrients and the stuff for your big pumpkin. And then you'll get more and more work that fits that niche that you're best suited for. So for us, we when we first started, we got all kinds of weird things, lots of small projects. A lot of people want us to do websites. Of course we can do websites. We build web-based software. Like that's like, right. Asking a PhD if he knows the ABCs. Of course we can do websites. We've got great designers. That's not what we're best at. We are best at making complicated software projects for small businesses and funded entrepreneurs. And so all of our marketing effort, everything that we do has to be focused on that. And sometimes it means we have to, slowly let clients go if they can't, if they don't fit what we do best. And we try to help them find better people, that are more fit for what they're looking for. But just this idea of focusing on what you are best at, who you can best help, was really helpful for us as a business.
And I'll just say something there. That's something that attracted me to Build Online to work for you guys is the incredible team of developers that you've put together. And the fact that you guys are doing groundbreaking stuff that is never been done before.
Yeah.
Like even with squirrel farmers, or excuse me, nut farmers that are working with squirrel problems. That's just fascinating, and there's just so many ways that you can put tech to work in business today that can really change the way people work. And so that's been something that's been attractive to me. And of course, your whole philosophy with team building has really been. But
Yeah. It's
track there.
it's a neat book. Like I said, anything by Mike Michalowicz, you need to read.
Yeah.
He's written a book on marketing that I'm reading right now, and it's phenomenal.
Hmm.
Another book he wrote on our list is Profit First, and this book is unbelievable. It is this book really, really has helped us build a business. And the main idea of this is that profit is essential, and it has to be guarded and planned for. I know you know this like illustration. You know, you've ever heard the big rocks illustration, like
Yes, I
yeah,
believe
like
so.
the idea, like if you don't put the guy fills a vase up with rocks and it's like, can we fit more stuff in there? And put smaller rocks in. Can we fit more stuff in there? Put sand in. Can we fit more stuff in there? We put water in. You know, what's the key takeaway? The key takeaway is if you don't put the big rocks in first, they'll never get in. And the book Profit First shows you that if you want to have a profitable company, you have to plan to have a profitable company, and you have to have, like, the reason why my business crashed the first time I tried it wasn't because it really wasn't because I was not good at what I did. I mean, so many of the things we're doing now, we were doing then. The reason was we just didn't charge enough. It's straight up, like we just didn't charge enough. There was no margin, and so it was like things like taxes and things like just the things that come up, like regular things. I had no money to pay for them. Something doesn't come up right, so client doesn't pay his bills. You have to have profit to have a profitable company. And genius thing he suggests setting up 5 different bank accounts. This is 5 checking accounts, if you will, and having one where it's like an inflow account where all the money comes in, and then taking that money by percentage and allocating it to other accounts. So you take a certain percent first, this is where the title comes from, and you put it in a profit account. And then you take a certain percent and you put it in taxes, a taxes account. And you have a certain percent that you put into expenses account. And then you don't look at all your accounts when you're going to pay your bills. You look at that expenses account, and everything has to come out of that expenses account. And I think it's the Pareto principle, or maybe that's not the name of it, but essentially expenses will expand to so you have to put an artificial constraint. It's a great book. You need to read that book. If you're any kind of business owner, it'll help you. I would give it to anybody, whether you're starting a pressure washing business or you're starting trying to start a tech unicorn. You'll be helped by that book, Profit First. All right, one last book on our list, and I know you've read this one, Brian, is Sprint by Jake Knapp, or at least seen this one, heard of this one. How to solve big problems and test new ideas in just 5 days. So this book really, really changed the way that we do things at Build Online. It is not about Scrum, even though it borrows that word sprint from Scrum. It's about having a planning meeting, a set period of time where you go through these different exercises to plan out new projects. And when we start a project, we start with a blueprint meeting, an all-day in-person meeting with our clients and stakeholders. And we go through the exercises that are laid out in this book, Sprint. And it is just, it makes such a big difference in giving us clarity and understanding on what we're supposed to build and who we're supposed to build it for. Never had a single client not say something like, that was the most valuable part of the whole process for them, was that first kickoff 1-day meeting. So I am super grateful for this book. I wish we had the budget and the time to implement everything in this book and go through the whole prototyping phase. And that would take a whole 5-day meeting. Honestly, my wife wouldn't like it very much if I was gone for 5 days at the beginning of every project. But Sprint is just a terrific, terrific book, and you should pick it up. So these are the 5 books that sort of helped us, guide us to become where we are at today, the growth that we've seen today. And if you haven't read any of them, you should read them. They'll really help your business. thanks for coming on with me, Brian, today, and I really appreciate it. You have anything else you want to say, or?
No, I just really am excited to work with you guys and to definitely work for a company that has these kinds of philosophies in place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have some more reading to do, so I'll be excited to pick these up and read them and listen to them. It'll be good.
All right. Awesome, man. Well, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for joining us today.
See ya.